And we've also found out, this was in the last couple of days, that Chinese engineers are writing TikTok's source code. Now, none of this is a surprise to Congressman Mark Green. My question to him, do you believe at the federal level that TikTok will be banned anytime soon?
Yeah, it's really interesting that the Democrats were very hard on the TikTok CEO when he came in, as sort of like, I guess, just a generalized punching bag for them. But, it'll be interesting to see. We're bringing this news out about the source codes being written in China, which is very scary. That means a backdoor to the servers could be written into the code. So there's no excuse for us to allow Americans' information to be, stolen like that. China's essentially data mapping the whole country. It makes no sense, and hopefully it'll happen.
Yeah, now we'll have to wait and see what happens. One of the questions that I also asked him, by the way, because I think it is a legit concern amongst Republicans, is that we have to face facts. There are millions of younger Americans who don't care about China. They don't care about the national security risks. They don't care about, Chinese engineers writing TikTok source code. They don't care about any of that. And so one of my questions has been to multiple Republicans, is there a worry that you're going to alienate younger voters? And the bottom line is, here's the deal. Our national security is at risk. So it doesn't matter. We need to protect America. And that's what folks like Congressman Mark Green and many others are trying to do on both sides of the aisle. The negotiations, by the way, over the raising of the debt ceiling continues. You got Kevin McCarthy saying the delays are not his fault. We also have Joe Biden saying, oh, no, it's all the Republicans' fault, right? So everybody's got their fingers pointed at each other. I asked Congressman Mark Green, what does he know about all of this? And I want you to listen very closely, because this was very entertaining. He answered the question, and then he just launches into this tirade on the dishonesty of the left. Listen close.
So there's no deal yet. I think they're getting closer, but, I'm not in the negotiations. I'm dealing with, the border and my responsibilities on Homeland Security. But yeah, as a chairman, I go into the chairman's meetings every day and I get to hear from Kevin. So last I heard, they're getting closer, but they're not. There's no deal made. They did say that tomorrow, when we're released for the week to go back to our districts, that we'll be on a 24-hour string, which means we'll have to get to DC within 24 hours when called. It's just crazy listening to the Democrats out there. And again, you talk about crazy rhetoric, like we're going to stealing candy from babies and, people are going to die. It's insane because the money is still flowing into the federal government. And June is actually the last month in the second quarter. It's the second highest month of collections for the federal government. So if you look at it from a cash flow standpoint as a business, that's the second highest revenue month for Uncle Sam, which means that we typically borrow between 5 and 10 billion, which, I know it sounds like a lot of money, but it's a drop in the swimming pool, not a drop in the bucket, but it's a drop in a swimming pool.
Yep.
For what this government spends. So, it's not like we're defaulting, and it's a lie. It's honest. It's deception from the left to suggest that we would be defaulting, that all these programs are suddenly going to end. They are honestly, and this is not hyperbole. And some of them, I got some friendships over there. Some of them are decent people, but the vast majority, they're not honest. They say what is blatantly false. And the tragedy is that, the greater majority of the media just passes that message on as if it's gospel.
It's funny because he seems, this is not a criticism, he seems so dismayed. But anybody who watched Adam Schiff over the last couple of years knows, there goes my voice, knows how much they lie and knows that they'll do anything to push their narrative forward. It's what they do. And Congressman Mark Green, he is right there in the middle of all of that dishonesty. And those of us who follow the news and those of us who know the truth, like me and you and Congressman Mark Green, it is stupefying that they get away with it and they'll just blatantly lie right to your face. And roughly half of America says, we don't care. We'll vote for the Democrats anyway. It is unbelievable. And as far as the raising of the debt ceiling and all of that nonsense, I do feel like we do this every single year. And every single year, they figure out a short-term solution, never really cutting anything and never really slowing down on spending. We'll have to see ultimately what happens. Now, yesterday, the House overturned President Biden's student relief program that would have given up to $20,000 to borrowers. We had talked about that a lot. For Congressman Mark Green, I asked him if this was a no-brainer vote for him because he did vote to overturn it.
Yeah, to say the least, Dan. Yeah, having taxpayers fund the bill for student loans. We're talking 87% of people who don't have them and 15% do. You got the guy who's a welder and a guy who's a pipe fitter and law enforcement and all the veterans. I mean, all these guys will be paying for, some Ivy League basket weaving master's degree program. It's insane.
All right. So as far as our border goes, because that is something clearly, obviously, he pays close attention to. And it does continue to be problematic. I asked him, we're talking about these headlines that read that the numbers of folks crossing the border are down. I told him, though, that I'm suspicious of those headlines. I'm suspicious of those numbers. And he said, well, yeah, you should be.
The numbers are not down. We're digging into it, and I've got some more work to do to get to the bottom of it. But there's some funny numbers there. Just stay tuned. More to follow.
Right. And it's not just about the numbers, but it is who and what is coming across, right?
Terrorist watch list, 1.5 million people. They don't know who they are, right? They could be criminals. I mean, if you're avoiding CBP right now, that means you're coming here for bad intentions. 16,000 Chinese nationals across the southern border in the last year. Some of which, most of which are military age and many of which they know have PLA ties. I mean, I got an informant call us about that. We're going to be digging into that now. I mean, it is dereliction of duty, but it is probably it is the greatest risk to our national security is Biden's open border policies.
Yep. And you've got Biden's open border policies. You've got the situation with China. I mean, it does go on and on. Now, coming up this weekend, of course, Memorial Day weekend, and I asked Congressman Green, of course, he was in the Army for many years. He was an Army doctor and so forth. And so I did ask him his reflections on this weekend as someone who did spend many years in the Army. Here's what he had to say about our veterans.
Well, obviously, Memorial Day is a very special day for me. I think about my, the guys I know that didn't come home. And I think about their families. It's a day of remembrance. It's a holy day to me. I mean, these are the guys who gave everything for our freedom. I do say this though, to Tennesseans, the men and women who gave their life for this country would want us to go out and enjoy our day and enjoy our barbecues and all the things that we'll do, but they just don't want to be forgotten. And so that's really what it ought to be about. It ought to be about reflection. It ought to be about remembering the sacrifice. It ought to be about trying to venerate and emulate them. We should tell their stories so that the young people of today can be less about me and more about our country and more about others. But in the end, I know they would want us to enjoy the day. So
And Congressman, that is Congressman Mark Green. And what I told him there at the end is with conservatives like him and conservative talk radio and talk show hosts like me, the stories of the veterans will continue on because I think that their story is incredibly important. And listening back to that, I didn't hear it at the time when I was doing this Zoom call with Congressman Mark Green. I didn't realize, I didn't hear that he actually got a little emotional there in talking about his time in the military. Always appreciate Congressman Mark Green joining us here